right, let's start. So today's session is about overcoming kryptonite chords or difficult chords. But there are some long-term and short-term strategies, and let me go into them very quickly. Oh yeah, before we start, I'm sure you all know this already, but in case some of you don't, I hope we all know the difference between chords and notes. So a chord is made up of multiple notes. So let me give you an example. The chord C is not the same as the note C because the C chord is actually made up of 3 notes, and the notes are called C, E, and G. A C minor chord is made up of 3 notes, and the notes are called C, E flat, and G. And then C7 chord, for example, is made up of 4 notes, and the notes are called C, E, G, and B flat. So I hope you know the difference between chords and notes because we're going to talk about them a lot today. So let's start. So there are 7 strategies when you want to play difficult chords. And I'll go through each one in separate slides. So first one is to use a perfect substitute. Second is to use an approximate substitute. Third one is to omit one note or to mute one note, and we'll be doing a lot of this today. Fourth one is to transpose the entire song and then use a capo to bring it back to the original tune, and I'll show you an example later. Another one is to rearrange your finger placement. I'll show you later. And then in the long term, of course, we can't really escape from improving our own bar chord technique and improving our basic fretting technique. So first one, using perfect substitutes. Now every chord has a perfect substitute. So for example, these 8 chords here, they are all the same. It's C major. And they all have the same notes. So if you look at this one, this is the usual one, C. The next one is also C major. The next one is also C major. Next one. Okay, and so on and so forth. So every chord has a perfect substitute. I reckon each chord would have at least 10, roughly. And I'm going to give you a resource. Please look at this website. It's called ukebuddy.com. It's very important. So when you go to the website, you click on the tab chords, and then you can choose the chord that you want. Let's say you want C, C major, then you click on these 2 buttons. And then it tells you there are 32 different substitutes for C major. And all you have to do is to scroll on it and it will show you what they are. Yeah, so use this resource if you want to find a perfect substitute, ukebuddy.com. And if you look here, it has every chord, every possible combination of chords. So let me move on to strategy number 2, using an approximate substitute. So when chords where most of the notes are identical can often be approximate substitutes of one another. So I give you an example. C chord, like I said, has 3 notes, C, E, G. C7 chord has 4 notes, C, E, G, B flat. But you notice 3/4 of the notes are the same of C7. So that's why you can often substitute a 7th chord for the C chord, C7 to a C chord. So my only caveat is that please try them before you perform, because sometimes they don't work. Make sure you try them out first and listen to it. If it doesn't sound good, don't use it. Let me give you an example of a few more approximate. So E7 is often used for E, and the reason is because E7 has all the notes of E plus 1 extra. So that's the difference between an E7 and an E. Similarly, G7 is often a substitute for G because it contains all the notes of G plus 1 more, F. Similarly, same here with B minor 7 and E minor 7. So, but do take note, the 7th chords have this extra note, which may or may not work in the context of a song. Also, there's D7, what I call a Hawaiian D7, which is this one. But the actual D7 is this one. And if you compare, yeah, they do have similar notes, except that the Hawaiian D7 doesn't have D in it. Similarly, I use a simplified F7 for the actual F7. So this is the actual F7. But if you look at my song sheets, I often use this one, the simplified F7. So approximate substitutes do tend to work if they share the common notes, but do try them out. Sometimes they don't work. Maybe 20% of the time they don't work. Can I continue to strategy number 3? Yes, very good. Okay, this is an important one. You could mute a string or omit playing a string entirely. So reason being, major chords only need 3 notes, but you have 4 strings. Therefore, you can actually omit 1 string in a chord and still have the same chord. So an example is C sharp major. C sharp major is a bar plus that note, but if you omit this string entirely, it is still C sharp major. Exactly the same. So this is the full one, and this is the muted one. So they're the same. Similarly, minor chords only need 3 notes, but you have 4 strings. Therefore, you can omit 1 string in a minor chord, and it will still be a perfect substitute. So B minor, for example, that's a full one. But if you omit this string, it still sounds the same. It has the same 3 notes. Okay, so that leads me to the strategy where you can omit 1 note and still have a perfect substitute. And this is, I think, something we need to use more often. So how do you mute? Muting means you just touch the specific string, but you do not press it down. If you touch it gently, you will hear this sound. So that's my second point. All you should hear from that string that you're touching is a muffled, clicky sound. That's what you want to hear. And then when you play it, the rest of the notes cover it up. This is E7. Everybody play E7. Now, lift up that finger ever so slightly so that you are muting it. You're making it more muffled. So if you lift up your middle finger, you hear that sound. Now, play the whole chord with 1 finger muted. So now you're playing, instead of E7, you're playing E major by muting that sound. So I'm going to play E7 and I'm going to go back and forth between the 2 chords. See what's the difference. So this is E7. This is E7 muted. E7 again. E7 with a mute. So I'm actually changing the chord by muting 1 string. Oh, by the way, there's no need to mute at the exact same spot. Okay, you can mute anywhere because you're muting the whole string. So if you want to, you could mute it a bit further down if you wanted to. As long as it's muted and has that clicky sound. Now, I'm going to teach you how to play all major chords possible by simply muting. I'm going to use this shape. I'm going to mute that string, and I'm going to show you the photo now. How do I mute it? I use the fleshy palm bit under the index finger there to mute that string. So can you see that? So these other strings are normal, but that string is now muted by using the palm of my hand, the fleshy part. This is what it sounds like. That click, that muffled sound. That's one way to mute it. The other way to mute it is to put a bar and then use your ring finger to mute that last A string again. For both methods, you're muting that last string, the A string, the one that's closest to the floor. Now I can play every single chord using this technique. All right, I just have to move it down. So let's start with, I suppose let's start here where there's a first mute here. This is E flat chord, so the 3rd fret, and then mute. Okay, then move to the next fret. Next fret. So make sure the last part is muted, the last string. Yep, that's what you want to hear. The rest should sound nicely. And then you move on to the 6th fret over here. Next one. Next one. And so on and so forth. So if you practice, it will go like this. So all you have to do is to slide it up and down. And you're using the fleshy part of your palm here to mute the A string. And you don't have to mute exactly where I put it. You just have to make sure that your palm is touching the A string anywhere. That's what I mean. There's no need to mute at the exact location of the X. So now you can play all major chords by simply muting one string. Similarly with minor chords, you can play all minor chords by muting one string. So let's say you use the B minor shape, you put your index finger across like that, but you mute the G string with the tip of your index finger. So look at the picture here. The tip of my index finger is muting the G string now. So everybody play B minor over here, B minor, but make sure you mute the fingertip. Test, plug the G string. You should hear that click. Super, and then you strum the rest. It sounds good. That's a B minor. So now your B minor bar chord is now a single finger, just one finger. That's all you need. So I hope that the picture is clear. I'm using the fingertip to mute this one string. The rest are normal. And if you mute, you hear this. And then the rest of the strings sound normal. Just the G. And then when you play it, see, it sounds nice. With this trick, you can now play all minor chords. Every single one. So B flat minor, for example, you put your finger there and you mute that using the fingertip, you're muting that string. That's B minor. Next one, B minor. Next one is C minor. So I'm just sliding up. Each one is a different chord. I've labeled them for you. So all you need to know is to make sure that you mute with the fingertip. Now, here's another way. Instead of muting, you omit an entire string. So let's say you hold a B flat chord shape like that, but only the 3 strings in the green box. Take note that the index finger presses 2 strings. Do not play the G string at all. And how do you do that? You strum at a slight angle. So when you strum, right, you don't hit the G string. So that's how you omit it. You strum at a slight angle. You only want to hit the 3 bottom strings, the one that you're pressing, the green ones, and I've labeled them here. You only want to hit those 3. Now, why do you want to do that? Simply because then you can play all the chords again, simply by moving them across. So let's say we start with B flat. So this is B flat. Next one, move the same shape. Next one. So we can play all major chords now. Can I move on? We have quite a lot to cover actually. The 4th strategy is to transpose down and then to use the capo to bring it back up. So let's say the melody is this line here. This is the original melody. And the chords are E flat, A flat, B flat. So when I say transpose down, I'm bringing the melody down like that. And when you transpose down, let's say 3 semitones, the chords suddenly become very easy. It becomes C, F, and G. Then all you need to do is to put a capo on the 3rd fret. Because I transpose 3 semitones, I put it on the 3rd fret, and the melody goes back up again to its original pitch. But I'm playing C, F, G now. So I've simplified the chords simply by transposing down and using a capo. All right, and this is what I use a lot during our sessions. Our song sheets are usually transposed down. The reason why I transpose down is to make the chords easier. Oh yes, if you're wondering how do you transpose, I've done an entire video. There's a slight rule that you can make. If you go to my video here, there's a link here. It will give you links to a PDF. You print out the PDF and you make your own slide rule. All the instructions are in the video. Or let me show you. You can do it here as well. So let's say if you start with A, then there's A sharp, B, C, C sharp. When you reach A flat, it goes back to A. So as long as you know this wheel, you can transpose anything. I'll give you an example now. So for example, the original chord is B flat, E flat, and F. If you want to transpose down, you go anti-clockwise. So B flat, if I go anti-clockwise by one step, becomes A. So that's your new chord. B flat becomes A chord. If you look at E flat here, find the E flat on the wheel. So E flat, if you go anti-clockwise one step, becomes D. So that's your next chord, D. And then if you go to F, find F, you go anti-clockwise by one step, it becomes E. So your new chords is now A, D, and E, which is easier to play than B flat, E flat, and F. Similarly, if I go 3 steps down, and that's by following the green arrow, I can make it easier. It becomes G, C, and D. All right, that's basically the transposing in a nutshell. Oh yeah, and then one more thing. Where do you put the capo? If you transpose down 3 semitones, then you put the capo on fret 3. This number must match. If you transpose down by 2 semitones, you put the capo on fret 2. These 2 numbers must match. All right, that's strategy number 4. Strategy number 5 is to rearrange your finger placement. This is more about transitions. So for example, C to E minor. If you do the normal C, as opposed to this C. If you notice this C now, I'm using number 2, which is my middle finger. So by using a different finger for C, I can switch to E minor faster because the number 2 finger is just next to each other in this example. So this is an example of how you can, by choosing your finger placement, you can easily move from one chord to another. You can make a hard transition become easier. Similarly, let me give you this example. F augmented, right? It's like this. Because I put my index finger right here. Now, if you go from F augmented to F, it's a bit hard. Whereas if you go from F augmented to F, like using this finger placement, you're only moving one finger, which is you're just lifting one finger. So this is what I mean by choosing to place your fingers strategically. You can make chords transitions easier. So you got to find what fingerings are in common between chords and try to plan ahead. That's the 5 basic strategies. Now let's take a look at some Kryptonite chords. By the way, just as a reminder, these are the numberings. Number 1 means index finger. Number 2 is middle. Number 3 is ring. Number 4 is pinky. All right, E. The normal E is this one. It's quite hard to play. You have to squeeze your fingers in, or you use a bar E like this. Index finger and then right there. But using the strategies that we have gone through, this is by omitting a string. So if you can imagine omitting the string, you're now just playing 3. Remember the fleshy part of your palm? You want to mute the A string. Okay. The second way to play E is to play an E7 and then to mute that one string there. So just lift up your finger slightly. So that's E. If I press hard, it becomes E7. E, press hard, E7. That's another way to play E, the easier way. And then there's this way to play E, which I find it too hard for me because I gotta stretch my pinky. But it's a perfect substitute. It's just that I can't. I don't like it. I don't like to do it. Yeah. So it's not. This is not in my toolbox, unless you got long fingers or something. So my favorite E is this. Either one of these. And I usually use this one because then I can change to an E7 very easily. So remember what I said about approximate substitute? E7 is often a good enough substitute, but not always. It's because it has a D note, which doesn't belong. Make sure you can play E7 and E back and forth, then you can tell the difference. Maybe we should do that as an exercise. Let's do it together. Ready? E7 and then E, back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4. E7, E. E7, E. E7, E. E7, E. E7, E. E7, E. I'm gonna move on. E minor. This is a substitute for E minor. Only 2 fingers. Okay. Okay. If you ever feel lazy, you can try this E minor. F, we've done this before. So F7, you can either use a simplified F7, but as I mentioned, it's not exact substitute. There's a missing note. Or you can use a perfect substitute, which is a bar with one note there. This sort of bar is quite easy because it's just 1 finger and a little and your middle finger there. Now F major 7, the original is horrendous, and I'm not even sure that I can do it. Hang on, F, I can't even do it. Yeah, something like that. I can barely play it. All right, but I found a perfect substitute which is much easier to play, which is just that, and I use it all the time in all our song sheets. So I never use this ever again. So we only use this one. Here's an interesting one. One finger F major 7. So you put your finger on the 10th fret on the G string and strum the rest. That's a F major 7 as well. 10th fret. 10th fret on the G string and nothing on the rest. I'm gonna move on. F minor. Yeah, there are 2 versions of F minor. Remember our strategy is about omitting or muting it. So on the 8th fret is the F minor. So this, or use this shape on the 5th fret. But you do have to omit or mute that last string, the G string there. So these are simplified versions of F minor, but they're perfect substitutes. Next one is F sharp. Usually the best way is to simply to do like a G shape, but on the 1st fret, and then to mute that string. You can either omit it or use your thumb to mute. So put your thumb there. Can you see where my thumb is? It's like lurking. Where is it? There. It's lurking there. I'm touching it lightly so that you hear that sound, the muted sound again. Yeah.
I'm with your new trick of using your finger to mute the top string. I can do it like a bar.
Oh yes.
Mute the top string like you just showed us. That's a great trick.
Okay. Yeah. All right. G, like I said, G7 is often used as a substitute, but it's not perfect because it has an extra note. Here's another substitute. Yep. And then G sharp. Once again, you use your thumb to mute, and you play it like a G shape, and then you use your thumb to mute. So this is what I use, the thumb to mute. A7 is not a perfect substitute, but it's easier because it's only 1 finger. And then what else is there? B flat. I've mentioned this in the muting section. You can either omit or use your thumb.
I find it easier just to bar the whole lot. If I'm doing a bar chord, I always just do the whole lot. Albeit, the 1st fret is by far the hardest because there's great attention required to get the strings against the fret.
Yes.
When you're right back against the nut.
Yeah.
It's easier as you go up.
Yep. I suppose I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. So, and I'm assuming that barring the whole thing is harder. Let's move on. I think there's only one chord, a few more left. B, yeah, B7 is often a good substitute. Not always, but it's good enough. B minor, like I said, omitting that G string works for perfectly. C sharp is omitting the A string to make it easier. Okay. C sharp minor is that trick again, omitting the G string. Here's one where you it looks easier actually, but you do have to mute the last one. And sorry, this should be 1 and 2, not 1 and 1. This is rearranging your fingers. So D could be fingers 1, 2, 3. I prefer fingers 2, 3, 4 because my pinky is smaller and it fits. Some people do 3, 1, 2. Like making a little triangle within that fret. 3. It's not actually 3, 1, 2. It's 2, 1, 3. Sorry, 2, 1, 3. 2, 1, 3. 2, 1, 3. Okay. D7, like I said, this because it's not a perfect substitute, but it's so much easier compared to the original one. D minor, the bar version that by omitting that G string always works easier. E flat. These are the two originals that you normally do, but we have a nice easy one. I gotta get my fingerings right. This should be 2, 3, and 1. 2, 3, and 1, and then E flat major, E flat minor. Okay, so you either omit that one or you use the bar version on the 6th fret. Alright, so those are the short-term things that you can do, the 5 strategies that you can do to make chords, hard chords easier. So now I'm going to talk about going back to the basics, because in the longer term we do need to try to get better at the basics, and we should try to practice bar chords every day. I've got an exercise for you. And it will take at least a month of daily practice before your fingers get strong enough. So take a look at this. These are some tips I have for bar chords. Number 1, the ukulele must face the audience, not your face. Do not. I know you like to look at it, but the best way to play bar chords is to face the ukulele forward towards the audience. So look at it and then turn it away from you. Turn it away. That's the easier way to play bar chords. Number 2. Okay, this is the top-down view. Using my stomach as a fulcrum, I use my forearm, push it down here so that the neck goes up this way, and then I can then pull backwards on it. So I'm using like my stomach like a lever, fulcrum. The reason why I'm doing that is because when there's pressure here, I don't have to use as much force to press on the neck. So for example, if I press hard, I don't even need my thumb to be on the back of the neck. I can bar it already. Hang on, where is my camera? Yeah. So my thumb is not touching the back of my uke, but I can bar already. Simply by my forearm presses down, my stomach is the fulcrum, and the neck wants to go forward, but you pull backwards on it to give you force. The red is you pulling back. The yellow is where the neck is pushing towards. So the fulcrum is here. Another tip is make sure, so this is wrong. You want to lower it and push it forward. So the wrist must be lowered and moved forward. This is the better one. Next tip I have for bar chords. Make sure your bar is not too far away from the fret. This is too far. So all you get are buzzing sounds. This is too far. Can you hear the buzz? So you want to bar close to the fret, but not on the fret. You can't put your fingers on the fret. It will buzz as well. So too far sounds like this. On the fret sounds like this. It's not clear. Just pull back a little bit. Now it's good. Just make sure it doesn't buzz. The moment it buzzes means you're either too far or too close. Next tip I have is that put your thumb behind. It gives you ability to form a clamp. So this is wrong. Don't hang your thumb too far like this. It's doing nothing. Unless it's trying to mute. Trying to mute the G string there. Next tip I have is that you can double your bar for extra strength. So you put your middle finger there. Now you got twice the pressure. Like this guy here. Now beginners, you might feel discomfort. And this is normal, okay? Just shake out your hands and just take a break. Another one that I have is to rotate your index finger slightly because it's bonier on the side. You want as much leverage as you can. So this is the finger being flat, but you notice in this diagram the finger slightly rotated because it's a bit harder on the edge of your fingers. Another point I want to make is that can you see this first joint here? This first joint, there's often buzzing wherever the string meets your first joint because that's the thinnest part of your finger. So make sure you pay attention to your first joint. That's where the string is most likely to buzz. And last tip for bar chords is, I suppose we've discussed this. Sometimes a partial bar is easier. This is a full bar. This is what Steven was doing. And this is a partial bar. That means you're only barring two strings instead of the whole thing. I'm not sure whether it's easier for some of you, but I thought barring 2 strings is easier than all 4. And that's all I have for bar chords. Any questions? Let's do an exercise. A descending, ascending bar chord. So let's play the same bar chord from the 7th to the 1st fret, 1 fret at a time, and go back to the 7th fret. Okay, let's start with the first one. So C minor 7, this line here, put it on the 7th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now every time before you do your bar, make sure you plug each string. You want to hear it clear. If you hear a buzzing sound, means you got to adjust. Keep adjusting until you get a clear sound. Remember, twist your finger. Watch where the first joint is. Lower your wrist. Use the lever. Use your thumb. Everything I've said before. And it will work. And then let's go to fret number 6. Fret number 5. Fret number 4. 3. 2. And 1. And go back up. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. And then that was the C minor 7 shape. Now let's try B minor. This is hard one. A bar with an extra finger there. So you put this bar here on this fret number 7. Fret number 7. And then put the extra finger 2 steps further down. And you hear this. And then you go down to 6. Go down to 5. Go down to 4. Go down to 3. Go down to 2. Go down to 1. Go back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So make sure you plug each one. You want to make sure that it's all clear. And then so on and so forth. You move on to the B flat shape. B flat shape. Now you put this line here, the partial bar, at fret number 7. So come to 7. Yeah. And then you do. Then you go down to 6. Go up. So this is what I mean by exercises. You got to do this every day until you can do it smoothly. And then you should be able to do it fast as well, like this. Then you try this shape, which is E shape. So you put the bar on the 7th fret, and then put your pinky down. So your pinky goes here, go down to 6, and then go up, back up. And then there's this shape here, which is A flat major. You put your bar here on the 7th fret. Next one I want to talk about is the basics of playing chords. I'm going backwards. This is now the very fundamentals of playing chords. There are some same principles as the bar chords, which is holding the uke forward, pressing just behind the frets, not on the frets, lowering your wrist and moving it forward. But there's some extras which I want to talk about. Number one, use your fingertips. So this is not fingertips. On the left here, you want to curl your fingers over and use your fingertips. Curl over. And that's why you need to lower your wrist and move your wrist forward. Then it's easier to curl your fingers over the fretboard. So notice the angle is now vertical. You're hitting the fretboard vertically. This is wrong. The angle is too low. So what this finger is doing is pressing this string, but it's also touching that string. And it's pressing 2 strings at once, and that causes a buzz. You don't want that. Second point I want to make is that if you can, please have a reasonably short fingernail. It should be short enough that you can use your fingertip like that. If your fingernails are too long, it will be impossible to use your fingertips. And then my third point is you want to develop calluses so that you can press more firmly without soreness. So this is my fingers today. There's some, as you can see, slight calluses there. You know, you don't want massive calluses, just enough. How do you develop calluses? You gotta play songs for 15 minutes a day for 30 days in a row. All right, make sure you stop playing for the day if your fingertips get sore. You want your fingers to feel sore, and then it will recover by growing stronger skin back. The third point is very important. If you don't keep up with regular playing, your calluses will disappear. And if you start all over again.
Can I butt in a bit?
Yep.
If you can't play ukulele daily, your fingernail in each push down on where the calluses would be. It keeps them on the go.
That's good. That's a great tip. Thank you, Paul. You hear that? So press your fingernail on the thumb against the calluses if you can't play regularly. Thank you, Paul. So the real secret is always keep a uke near your favorite places so that you can play it every day. So maybe near the TV, on the couch. That's probably the best. That's it. This is a summary of what we've talked about. Use a perfect substitute. Use this resource, ukebuddy.com. So every chord has about 10 substitutes, perfect substitutes that you can look up. So this is a very important resource. You can use approximate substitutes as well, but try if it works first. Not all of them work. Probably 80% will work, but 20% may not. Mute or omit one string, and if you'll find out that you can play all major and minor chords this way. Every single one, every single major chord, every single minor chord, simply by muting or omitting a string. You could transpose down and use a capo. So you transpose down to easier chords and then use the capo to bring it back up. You could rearrange your finger placement. And then finally, of course, these are 2 long-term things you need to work on. You got to improve your bar chord technique, and you got to improve your basic fretting techniques. Any questions? All right, do you want to do one exercise? We'll play a song using some of these techniques. The song is Jailhouse Rock by Elvis. The original chords are hard. D, E flat, A flat, B flat 7. So they're very hard chords. So remember, we use our strategy of transposing. We transpose it down by 3 semitones. That makes it much easier. It becomes B, C, F, and G7. Then we can use the capo on the 3rd fret to bring it back to the original key. And then the B and C chords. Okay, let me show you the song sheet. So this is now after transposing. And then you got to put your capo 3. So you now have B, C, C sharp, F, C, G. These are the easy ones. Okay, now the B and C chords, right? I suggest that we omit that string. So B and C is just this shape. You're only pressing 3 strings. You're only pressing 3 strings here, 3 strings there. You're omitting the G string entirely. So that's the beginning. Ba bum, ba bum, ba bum. So that's most of the song, and then chorus is just, you can play the normal chords which are over here. Everybody let's rock 2 3 4. Everybody let's rock 2 3 4. Everybody in the wholesale block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. Get my kicks, let's rock. Normal strums, everybody let's rock. Everybody in the wholesale block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. 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 That's the last part. The last part is now a C sharp to a C. Now C sharp has the same shape, but it's on the 4th fret. So once again, we're omitting the G string there. We're playing this shape, but on the 4th fret. 4th fret, everybody, sounds like this. Okay, this one, C sharp here. Everybody play that. And then you bring it back down to C bar. And that's the ending of the song. C sharp C, like this. So that's it. So we're employing all our tools to make this song easy to play. Shall we go? Ready? Just play along with me. 1, 2, 3. The warden threw a party in the county jail. The prison that was banned and there began a wail. The band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard those knocked out jailbirds sing, let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in the wholesale block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. Shifty Henry said to Bucks, for heaven's sake, no one's looking now, a chance to make a break. He bumped his into Shifty and he said, nix, nix, I wanna stick around a while and get my kicks, let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in the wholesale block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. I want to do the Jailhouse Rock. Dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. Dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. All right, everybody, thank you. We're done for today.
That was great, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. That was lovely.
Very
Thank
good.
you for all your hard work.
Yep, great.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Yep.
All
Good
right.
night, everyone.
Good night. I'll send the slides to you.
Thank you.
There's quite a lot to absorb. So
Thank you.
thank you everybody for coming.